Hmm. Let me see something. Is this what I need? Oh, you're a little ugly. Okay, well, maybe I just don't do this until I figure out.
Something in your vibe telling me I shouldn't try, and I'm not good at moving on. Listening but lost inside it. Word, baby, don't be surprised. Got me feeling my nerves, baby. We be perfect. Swear it's worth it, but everything is perfect in the worst way. I know you feel what I'm feeling, and that shit hurt me. Trying to conceal it, I'm reeling, cause you the first thing on my mind. Every time. Did you give up hope on me? Let her possibility.
Okay, that works.
Settle up on me, know you can climb. Your body got bad intentions, so what you decide to do with me, I can take it, baby. What do you like, girl? What you like? Yeah, yeah. Use me to let go of anything you choose. Happy to be the reason that you move. When your body on me, gon' let it move.
Okay, let's do this now. This one. You know, I'm already here, so I might as well try to figure this out. It would be great for the VOD. Which is spit rate. See what happens. I gotta turn up my mic. Ooh, man, it's too high. This isn't loading. Just see if I can get this working. Maybe. Like, how are you not getting enough video? Let's do this. I think it's because that messed it up. Let's try that. What's so funny is just I'm not doing anything like intensive. Sure. I need you to work. Hmm. Like, why is the... Just chill out a little bit. Hmm. I can't tell if this is like too intensive or not. Or like what's happening for the other end. Because it's giving me red on my end, but this is saying it's fine. But it's saying I'm dropping frames over here. Um, which is interesting. Very interesting. So, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. I think we just roll with this. So I'm gonna check my Instagram. I just don't hear my feedback, so I'm giving this like. I'm not even getting green. Y'all get to listen to me speak twice. Well, what happens if I hit record? That's the real question. Now that I click start recording. Which, you know what? My recording settings might not even be right. Ooh. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. That was about to be an unusable video. Oh, that's what I'm hearing now. Okay. Alright, hold on. We're gonna stop this stream and then restart it. Oh god. We're gonna do that. And trust that to work. Did you just keep everything? Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Well, new question. There we go. Boom. 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 OMG. Wait, that works, I think. Let's see. I'm gonna do this. Yeah. I probably don't need that out. Let's see. OMG. Let's see. OMG. Wait, that works. That works, I think. Okay, well, maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. If not, that's what recording's for. So let's do this. And do this. Do I have enough space? Yep, surely. So I'm gonna keep a little baby stream up, and then we'll see where or how many problems it has. Um, but I think I figured this out. So I'm gonna put my phone right there. And so story is I have locals tomorrow, technically. And I just want to build a deck for locals. Yo, should I use my fancy mat? Hold on. Should I use my FOW fancy mat for promotion? I actually want to order a new one of these. I do want to order a new one of these. With different material, because I don't like this material as much as I thought I would. Like, it's fine, it's just not my favorite, right? So I want to try the other material. I want to try it not stitch, and that might be the one that I go with, honestly. This mat's fine though. I hope that this doesn't have too many problems. Look, we're not perfect. Ooh, but we're gonna keep it cooking. Okay. So what I want to do is I have two things full of cards that I think are not necessarily viable, sort of viable, but cards that are potentially playable to look at and to play in Hyde this format. I think that Hyde, I think Hyde is in a decent spot this format. Maybe not the best, because I genuinely think that aggro is like kind of the best spot probably that it's been since I've started playing. Where aggro is just like really, really good. And let me just double check that this is all coming through fine. Boom. All right, cool. It is. But yeah, I think that aggro is just like also in a really good spot, where it's just really consistent and really hard to deal with because a lot of the tools that could deal with it have been like taken out the game. But I think if you're, I think control is a little too weak this format. I think if you want to try to play control, you're basically always gonna lose the aggro matchup. This I think Hyde kind of exists as a toolbox though, that has the tools to deal with aggro, just maybe not the best. I think control you have to play perfect if you're up against aggro, which you can argue that's how it's always been, but I think even now more so, it's just so consistent and so in such a good spot that you absolutely have to play perfect if you want to play control this format. But I think Hyde gives you a little bit more room for error, a little bit more room for mistake. I'm not saying that you should rely on being able to make mistakes in a match, right? But it's just like it definitely has more of a balance, I think. Now I have my GP deck for April, and it's probably not gonna be this, but depending on how I cook it up and how locals goes, I think that there's potential here with Hyde. Um, but I don't know if I would risk my first GP of the format being on Hyde. Um, though it depends. It depends. I'm gonna do more testing and see, but right now I just want to get like the basics, the fundamental build down. Which she did receive an unfortunate second nerf with the CR update, right? We have only one child now, right? You only get one. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna I'm gonna share this phone. Literally only with one chat. It's the middle of the night and I don't feel like doing a whole bunch of. But she did get an unfortunate nerf, right? From the moon child and the sun child, right? Just the partner nerfs in general, which very unfortunate because she was already not in the best spot after her combo ban. Like I think her combo ban was super brutal for her, which is another kind of problem with playing her, is that combo ban came through and hit hard. Now on top of the one Moonchild. So first instinct I would say is to play X. And I think that this is probably still correct. But I do want to at least entertain on the board of discussion Water Moon and Darkness Moon as potential options. Maybe not main deck, but potentially side deck. I think these are the only other ones that might be viable. Again, unfortunate bystander of getting the other children hit. Um, though I think even with light and fire around, because you only get one, you're probably running X, right? The argument for this is that you always represent a pop off of Darkness Moonchild, which hits things like you hit Little Red, you hit what's his name? Um, Not Gruce Ballesta. What's the Abdul? You hit Abdul. Those would probably be the big ones. The argument for Water Moon is that it just lets you run some really good water cards that exist in the format. Though I wouldn't say water is super strong right now, but I do have a set of water cards pulled out. I think that these sit here. I think potentially Darkness Moon gets a side deck option or a side deck slot. Um, but I think that you always want to start with X, right? I think especially because you now with the combo ban too, right? On top of one child, you don't have a way to get more zones really reliably. If you're not running X to at least help you start with the 3, and starting with 2 just isn't. I think that puts you too far, not necessarily behind, but you're distracting from your own game plan too much by only running 2. So you only just hurt yourself, which is one of the reasons Hyde fell off, is because you can't refill your EX zone and expand it as easy without contract. So now we get into, I have like the Hyde kind of suite right here. I just have her cards pulled out. Now, the first one to talk about, I think is the easiest to mark off, is Hyde and Aristella. Or Aristella and Hyde, whichever order it is. Sorry, that webcam is just going to keep doing this. I don't think that this card is good enough to run. I think it's expensive, and I don't think it does enough. Like, it expands your EX zone. So the theory with this, right, is that it becomes quick cast off of Iga. And so this kind of is supposed to it's meant to substitute for not having Hyde, right? Or not having Pink Spider, not having contract. So it's quick cast off of Iga. It already costs 1 less because of you start with Hyde in your ruler zone. So you put out a Harley. You what's it called? You net this into your EX zone through something like Black Cat, Goddard, or through Hyde ability. You play Iga, and then now because it's already a 2-drop, it becomes a 1-drop from Iga, paying for 1, and then you just pay into the last one. But I think that's already 2 resources that the Iga could have gone to something else, like better cards. And I think that this just becomes too slow for what it does, because you also needed to leave the field. And it doesn't have an EX zone like benefit outside of just existing. So I think that Aristella and Hyde is like one of the easiest like no's. And then just expanding the EX zone also doesn't do anything if you can't get cards into it, which is part of what Pink Spider did, is Pink Spider got the cards into the EX zone. And Aristella and Hyde doesn't do that. And I don't think that you need Remnant enough on ninjutsus to warrant, again, another resource paying into that to do it. So I would argue that this is like one of the easiest no's from everything that's in this pile. And then the next point of discussion would be, we get here. Where is it at? Boom. So we get to the combo ban, which I think this one's also a pretty easy debate. I don't think that this card is good without being quick cast. I think it's way too slow without being quick cast or cost reduced. I think this card's way too slow, especially in this format where I'm saying like aggro I think is really good. I think that a 2-drop sorcery speed, as you call it, uh, banish 2 isn't that good, right? Because you want to banish the things when they're like about to attack or something like that. Like, right? Like, say it's like wolves. You want to be able to banish the wolves when they're like going in for swings, when they're going in for damage. So on their turn, you don't want to do that on your turn. You don't really care as much on your turn. And you've already taken the damage at that point, right? So I don't think that Rocket Dive is good, like, at all. I think there's just better spot removal than this. And I don't think that the benefit of running or getting Pink Spider is enough to warrant it, because you get the refill, but you give up so much value that you get off of Iga otherwise. Like, I think that the value gained off of Iga, giving your things quick cast and being a will production in a format without dry wing too, is another note that I think that just running there's no reason to run Rocket Dive over Iga. I think Iga is always the choice. I'll get a fourth hollow, trust. trust. I'll get a fourth hollow, but I think that this is just too good of a card, especially because it pays for anything in the EX zone, right? That was one of the problems when it first came out. People were like, "Oh, it does only pay for ninjas, ninjutsus," because I think German translation or something said that it only paid for ninjas, ninjutsus, but the card reads it pays for things in your EX area. So I think something cute that you can do with this too, that I like to do when I first practice it, is if you open up 2 Iga, you can flash both in, produce will off of both, and then when they go into EX area on the end phase or on cleanup, you use the 2 will that you made to play one of them. So now you have a permanent Iga that sits on board, and then it can also reproduce now because it's recovered. So opening 2 Iga isn't bad, really, ever. Outside of the fact it's one less card in your hand that you get to use, right? But I don't think opening 2 is bad ever, because it just kind of starts you into like your will production, especially in slower matchups. Maybe against aggro, that's not as good. There's other things that you'd want to play from the EX zone if possible, but it is like one of those things where, especially in slower games, that's a line that's kind of cute and good to know. Then we get to some of the other, I think, like, kind of basic package stuff. Let's look at Rusty's Fox specifically. I think this is an easy 4 of. I think for the aggro matchup, this is a really good 4 of, because it shoots what's it called? In like the red matchup, you can shoot little red, or in like any of the Kaguya or decks like that, you can shoot the wolves because it shoots for 3, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it flips and shoots for 3 already on its own, which is enough to kill a little red before Wolfstone, or what's it called? Before Wolfstone, or why am I blanking on the other card? Crimson Moon, right? And so I think that that's kind of important, because that means that Rusty, also off of 1 extra card in the X zone, kills it on 1. So what happens is you X Black Cat, and the thing is, this deck is a little RNG, but I think every deck's a little RNG to an extent. It's just how much can you minimize that, right? Is you X Black Cat, put something in the X zone, and then you can use coin. Let's say if you're going second against red and they judgment turn 1, or put a wolf out turn 1. You use the coin to put this into EX zone, and then you flip, and then you're hitting for 6, which isn't awful. It does hurt because you're back on resources, but especially if they don't have imperishable on their little red at that point, I think that that's a lot better. Like, it starts to feel a lot better, because then they're just waiting to find like Game of Lies or something like that. It's not the most like reliable, right? But I think that it's enough of a reason to run 4 of it. So again, you're trying to like kind of clean up the red matchup, especially because there's like Kaguya, the Moonlit Savior one running around that draws off of the shield. But I think that Rusty's also just your best for keeping the EX area full as well, right? Because like draw a card and put something into EX zone, and it's 1 less. Iga makes it free if it's in the EX zone. So I think that's already like for sure, like that's a Hyde package. Like those 8, that's enough of a reason to almost play Hyde. Then there's some kind of niche now picks like Glowing Spider. Glowing Spider's okay. My problem with Glowing Spider now is that you don't have Hyde, right? Our pink spider to expand and refill the zone. So at most this becomes a 10-10, which a 10-10 is that's not nothing, right? That's not nothing. But it's like, how do you get to 3 cards in your EX area? Where it's like you have to will sync with Hyde into it, but will syncs just never feel good to me. Like getting it passively off of Rocket Dive into Pink Spider is one thing, right? But like having to sync your will for interaction into filling up your EX zone just so you can get value off of Glowing Spider feels like really bad. Like Rusty's Fox at least pays itself off. Iga, I guess, puts itself in at end of turn. But like Rusty's Fox pays itself off. Though I guess to that point, there are cards where we get into like Spy Mission that also put itself into the EX zone. So it makes Glowing Spider a little bit better. Like you might just have to run Glowing Spider for damage, right? You don't have Rocket Dive anymore. And you need something that hits hard enough, which Rusty's Fox doesn't. That's one of the things that this deck never really had well, was like a lethal, I think, outside of like Stone Institute. So it might still be worth running for Glowing Spider, because worst case it also just draws like 1 or something like that. Best case is it draws 3. But even off of 1 card, it's a 6/6 1-drop. Like, that's not awful. That's not nothing, right? So I think there's a word where you do run for Glowing Spider as well. Just standard Hyde package of 4/4/4 with Iga, Rusty's Glowing Spider. Because you want to build, when you want to maximize what your deck does well, right? Like, that's the idea, is maximize what your deck can do well. And I think that for Hyde, that's probably it, right? Is you mess with the EX area. And if you're playing the game well, you'll probably have at least 1 or 2 cards in EX area for playing the Glowing Spider. Then we get to Spy Mission, which I think is okay. Like, it has the pop. The problem with pops against like Wolf is that if they rip a Red Moon off of the top, or even just the next turn off of Wolfstone, the Wolf comes back. So popping doesn't feel good, and neither does discarding for the same reason, right? But you're also able to make them discard things like just decks in general, make them discard things like Electra, or Perseus, or things that could just answer what you want to do. So I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's a 3 of at all. I think maybe 2. It's kind of just like a tech choice, right? It feels like what do you even want decks to discard nowadays that you would really care about hitting? Like against Grim Alice, you don't really care if they discard Cheshires or things like that, because they're gonna get those back. Like a lot of the discards in that deck matter less, right, in Grim Alice, because they're discarding their own things anyways. And things like the contract and stuff, when they're discarded, will come to field. And you also just end up giving them life, right? So that's like one of the difficult things about that in that matchup. But it also, in that same note, Spy Mission is hand knowledge, which I think is valuable in any format. I think being able to know what your opponent is working with and what you need to play around, or what their game plan might be. Like if you can see your opponent's hand and intuit what their next few turns will look like while they have no knowledge of yours, I think that puts you in so much of a better position than them. And that almost makes me want to bring it back to 3, right? I don't have 4 because I feel like I've never needed 4. And I don't think I'd run a 4 now. But I think that hand knowledge and potential rip of a resource or a starter card, since you can play this on turn 1, is so strong still, right? And then this plus a Rusty's off of Black Cat is that 600 damage that you want to represent, right? Like ripping a Crimson Moon out of hand or a counter spell, I think would feel really good with Spy Mission. Like, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. Like, I wouldn't be mad at seeing this in my starting hand. Is that to the point where I'd run 4 of it? I can pick up a 4th at locals tomorrow. I don't think I want 4. What can you hit? I mean, you can hit win cons. I think the information is better than even the discard. Just knowing what to play around, right? I think. Ooh. I think I'm gonna leave it at 3 for right now, and see how it goes in testing. I think the information, seeing it early and getting information early, is probably better, because I don't think there's a lot of decks that you want to draw out the game against. I mean, control isn't as bad. Once you start to establish your board, you're probably fine, right? So establish your board in the first few turns, and because you play at instant speed, you can play so much better than them, because you can play also on their turn. Like, I think control thrives off of playing sorcery speed stuff, right? Or the opponent playing sorcery speed stuff, which is another thing against Rocket Dive. Which Rocket Dive's good because it can't get Garyon, it can't get Fair Spell now. But again, you sacrifice so much value, because now you run Rocket Dive over Iga and your whole deck is sorcery speed. You no longer have like a quick cast card, which is just so bad. I think if you're playing at sorcery speed, you're probably playing it wrong. I think there's very few decks that could get away with playing sorcery speed. I pulled this card out. I pulled out the Stealthy Black Widow. Just kind of because it was there with the Hyde stuff. I think the fact it only destroys resonators is kind of the bad point about it. Because that's also reliant on an EX zone being full, right? For pops, like, it has flying, but I don't think flying is a good enough justification to run this. Because you need an EX zone. I would rather my EX zone with Glowing Spider. The EX zone is win more. And I would rather have my EX zone be a win more than my main method of removal. And this turns your EX zone into a method of removal. So I don't think that you run. I don't think there's a world where you run the Black Widow. Which is why I only pulled 1 out. There's no reason to find more, right? Yeah, I don't think turning, especially because it's only resonators too. That's the other point, is it's not J-Res. If it was J-Res, it could be thought about, but again, I'd rather my EX zone, if I'm relying on my EX zone for a card effect, I'd rather it be like win more than my main form removal. I'd rather run other actual real forms of removal. Like, attack order is already going to be better than that, even though it doesn't put a body out. Some other ninjutsus. I think High Help is just a throwaway card. I think this was just support. Next set support that wasn't really necessary. Because prevent all damage to J rulers isn't very good. I think the best effect on this is gain 1,000 life. And there's just other cards that do that. There's just other cards that gain life. Kunai Throw. I think Kunai Throw is actually interesting because it's one of the cards that has an effect in the EX zone that's good, as well as its cast effect is good, and it's really good against aggro, right? Because destroy a Rested Resonator, you destroy them on attacks before damage, but this does fall into the same trick or trap as the other spot removal cards like Spy Mission, right? Because it doesn't deal with like a wolf or something like that, and it doesn't deal with J-Rollers with imperishable. But I think that also the rest target J Resonator is really good as well because it fights off aggro. Like, I could honestly see running 4 of these because you'd want to rip it off of Black Cat just for the flip effect. Like, I think almost maximizing on your flip effect spells might not be bad. Because you don't have many that are free. It's 4 Rusty's Fox. I think 2 Kunai Throw at least is good. The main problem that I have with Kunai Throw, in regards to, what's it called? In regards to, like, playing it at multiples more than 4, or more than 2, like, going to 4, is that it doesn't advance your game plan, right? It just slows down what your opponent's doing. And that's, like, kind of the only reason I wouldn't want to run 4 of it. Like, Rusty's slows down your opponent's game plan, at least the Fox, slows down your opponent's game plan, and it can put a body on board after. Where Kunai Throw only slows down the game plan. And I think there's other cards I'd want to run for slowing down the game plan. But I do think that this card is good. I think that it at 2 is probably fine. Like, you want to see it, and you see 15 cards in your opener, right? Because you can see 5 from opening, 5 from mulligan, and then 5 from Black Cat. So I think it's good. I just don't like that it doesn't also advance your game plan, like, simultaneously. It just slows down. But I think at 2, starting at 2 is fine. So looking at the build right now, what are we at? I think we're at around 20 cards, are getting close to it, right? This is 10 right here. This is 4, and this is 3. So we're at 17 right now, which is fine. I don't think I need to run everything that's in archetype. In the last 2 cards, though, for Hyde that we're looking at, I think the non-engine is going to be more important than engine anyways. Like, I think the Hyde engine is so much weaker now, or the Hyde suite is so much weaker now without Pink Spider, that I don't feel a need to overload on Hyde cards. I think the non-engine is more important. Like, the staples, I think that's kind of just the format, though, is what staples supplement your engine. And I think that's kind of how the game's always been since I played as well. It's like, what staples supplement the engine that you're running, and is your engine consistently good at doing what it's supposed to do? Which Hyde lost that, but I still think that there's enough of Hyde that's worth looking at to warrant this build. Rusty himself, I think, is interesting. Like, the enter, if you kill something like a wolf, right, or like an Electra, you can take that, and then proc it before, like, the wolf even gets to proc the flip, because it's all part of the resolution of one effect. An Electra will then also bounce back on your opponent and burn them if you take, like, an Electra. I think that the gain life draw card is also really good, in that it is another pop. The black is gonna do the same as Spy Mission. You just can't ego for it, right? But I think Rusty is good. I think Rusty's just expensive. Like, a 3 cost, even with ego, I think it's just really expensive, and I don't think running ninjutsu meditation is good. Because it only pays for ninjas and ninjutsus, which Iga isn't, so you can't pay for Iga. So that's already, you're down to what? We're at 17, so 13 cards that it could pay for. And it can't pay for abilities. And it has to be from the EX zone, right? Is the other thing that you have to pay for. Like, I think, again, with Pink Spider, it's probably worth consideration, but since there's no Pink Spider, I don't think you consider ninjutsu meditation. I think Rusty's at 1 is probably fine. There might be an argument for 2. I think the gain of life is probably good in the aggressive matchups, but the pop might be even better. But I think this becomes another one like Kunai Throw and Rusty's Fox where you don't mind hitting it off of Black Cat to have it available in your EX zone. Honestly, you probably don't even mind hitting Spy Mission for the same reason, right? These are all interruptions in a sense that you can hit off of Black Cat. So now you're at what, 3, 5. You're at 10 potential or 11. Yeah. No, 10. Yeah. You're at 10 potential interruptions or points of contention that you can hit off of Black Cat and put into your EX zone. And 6 of them don't cost will, which I think is another big point. Because against the aggressive matchups, which will probably be your worst ones, you'll want to play as low to the ground as possible and kind of maximize what each card does. So I think Rusty's is worth playing at 1. That puts us at 18 cards for the Hyde suite. And then the last one is Rusty Ningus. Let me read this card again. Let me remind myself on what this card does before I decide if it's worth it or not. Because I know that this is the new, what's it called? Edition. So it revives Ninja Resonators or adds them back to your hand, which is low-key even worse. But it recycles your flips for your I guess that isn't bad. I think I don't know how I feel about this card. I think it requires so much setup. That's my problem with this card right now. Is it requires a lot of setup. I think the best thing you can do with this card is hit it off a Black Cat. You hit it off a Black Cat, you have Iga on board. You pay 1 white for Iga, and then play Rusty Ningus. Because now that you have no cards in your EX zone, this will only cost 1. And then clean up this, so our end of turn, that'll go into EX zone. So it makes this cost 1. Technically free. But that's like a best case scenario, right? Is if you hit it off with a 5. And then you still are reliant on other cards. Like, I think it's one of those grind game cards, but I don't think you want to play for... You don't want to build your deck around grind game. Or doing ninja tricks. I think, like, the best thing you can do is you can put Rusty in board, and then put Rusty's Fox out. But although I guess you can recycle enters on things like Glowing Spider, right? You can recycle Rusty enters. You can recycle Rusty Fox enters. And you can recycle Glowing Spider enters. Which actually might be really good. By cycling them with Rusty Ningus. And then it puts the face down, but I think the face down is less important. I think there's potential. I really think this card would be better with Hyde or with Pink Spider around. Like, I'd for sure say run it if there was Pink Spider. Because this also helps you dodge spot removal, right? Like, if you're against like a Kaguya Trials deck, you can dodge the spot removal, so that way they don't trigger Trials now. I think this lets you it lets you cheat out Rusty, which is another big thing. But it's so expensive. It's a 2 cost. Unless you have no cards in your EX area. Which means you either want to hit it early. But I don't think it's good enough to run 4 of to try to hit it early. Kind of like kunai throw, except this does advance your game plan. And it puts the things back face up, which is another. I mean, that only matters for. Yeah, it matters for the Rusties, both Fox and the boy. Glowing Spider doesn't care. You just play Glowing Spider again regular, and it'll just draw you cards. But Rusty and them care, because they want to be face down, which would cost another will, and then another will to play Rusty, but Rusty's Fox would be free after. So flip back up. It also doesn't need to put a resonator from face up into the zone. If I'm reading this right, I don't think it cares if the resonator that you put is face up. I might need to get confirmation on that. But I think because you know what the, what's it called is, you know what's in your EX area at all times, I'm pretty sure you can put a face down one. It just cares that the one you target is a resonator, or a ninja resonator, which means it has to be face up. This also only flips 1 card. I wish it just flipped all of them. That would be so much better, right? Yeah, I don't think it cares. It might be worth playing with. That gives potential thought to second Rusties. Regular Rusty. So that way you have 10 ninjas to cycle through with Ningus. But 9 honestly might be enough because, again, we probably want to minimize the Hyde suite. And right now the Hyde suite is 20 cards, which is a lot. For a deck that you don't get your lady in, right? That you don't get contract in. I think 10 cards that kind of rely on playing with EX area is a lot now. Which is one of the things, that's one of the concerns I have with this deck. Is how much do you need? And that's one of the things I think makes this deck not viable, is the lack of EX area. So I think you need to kind of supplement it, right, with some really good non-engine picks. So yeah, we're at 20 cards right now for the Hyde suite, which means we get 20 bits of non-engine now that we get to look into, which I think that's probably the more interesting part. I think this kind of builds itself. I think these cards, again, I think these cards are pretty easy choices to not run. So this is just stone based, and this will give you an idea on like what I'm looking at for potential other options, right? So now we get into the meat of it, which is this. As I was looking through my cards and figuring out, I was like, oh, what can we run? I don't think it's all organized. Some of these are side deck options, side deck choices that I think are just like okay right now. Yeah. So let's see. I think just real quick, this might be something worth talking about. Is the Tribe Researcher. Discard and then make Hyde free for 1. But I think the one less card that you get out of this by using this probably isn't worth it, right? You just want this to be another playable card rather than trying to feed EX area, which we have 20 cards, but not all of these want to be in the EX area, right? Like you want to play Iga from hand. So I don't think that we need to run this. I think these would just rather be real cards. So I'm gonna put that over in the no pile. Then I think those are all tech choices that I have right here. So we're gonna come back to these, but I would like to talk about potential color options for supplementing Hyde. Which Hyde was already, we have, I think one of the things that makes Hyde good are considerable in this format is the fact you have filter, right, for white green or white black, which lets you consider running other options for stones for your stone base. This, I think Lumia, regardless, I think Lumia has to be run. And I think it does have to be run at 4 because I think it helps you with your aggro matchup, both in gain back life and in being spot removal that doesn't destroy. Like against the Kaguya deck, you just RFG the wolf, right? Which I think a good player probably plays around that. However, that's not enough of a reason to not have the option. Yo, hello. How's it going, Jeremy? How is it going? I just finished putting together the Hyde suite of stuff, so now I'm on to supplementary non-engine. How was locals tonight? I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, I think Lumia is one that's a 4 of in main. Just because, like I said, I think aggro is super strong in this format. Probably the best that I've ever seen it. Just based off the consistency and tools that it has to apply pressure. Some other stuff with that is I have this witch suite. That I don't know how I feel about. There's an argument for 4, Black Witch. That's not necessarily the point right now, though. I think against Grim, Alice, or any Grim deck, right? This turns off their searches, which I think is huge. And then it also gives you access to this inside. It lets you play more of your side in main. You have Witch Train into Pumpkin Witch. There's Green Witch for added interruption. And then there's the Unblowing, which is just for the what's it called? The true red deck, right? That wants to recover stones. So I think that it's interesting consideration. I think if there's space in the deck and side deck, that it goes into like a maybe pile. But I think there might be better stuff for main. This is another consideration is Essence of Athenia. To interrupt, you play this for Darktree / Solaria. Because a lot of those decks don't run main. As far as I'm aware, right? They don't run any main deck options to RFG their own stuff once it's engraved. That might change. People might run more of this, but this also interacts with things like Lumia's Rage, and the Lumia deck in general. Just RFG bring back the grave in response. Which I think is a niche interaction. It might be worth side decking. It also removes grave for like Grim, Alice, right? So their never end can't get the buffs, which I think is another neat interaction. I think this still goes into the maybe pile. Potential side deck options. Back from Lorcana locals, watching my boy. Yes, sir. How did Lorcana go? I was trying to figure out when promo week is, so that way I can try to stop by again. But yeah, and it hits book. Yeah, that's another one. That's another one of the interactions that I like. And one of the tech choices I was running in red is that I think being able to hit the book in response to book trigger feels really good. Because you can stop them from gaining as much life. Steel Jafar Wheel 3-0. Oh my gosh, that sounds disgusting. That sounds disgusting. That sounds fun though. I like that. And then this is the last little bit of darkness, at least, tech that I was looking at, which is Lucifer. And this is mostly for Dark Tree, right? The Drain. The life loss helps for closing out games a little bit sooner and easier. So I think Lucifer is in consideration. I thought about the rest of the Solarization Stein package stuff for tokens for life loss, but I don't think there'd be room. Won a game against Red Purple by decking them out. Oh my gosh. What the heck? That's like the second time I've heard about deck out. Against the decking Lorcana. Like, decking out Lorcana is just so crazy to me. Like, what type of game would have to happen for that to be the win con is deck out? Just because of how, like, the game's really slow at the start, right? And then middle game is kind of where everything happens. So getting to, like, that kind of end game is just crazy. With Lucifer, I don't know. The discard is, like, another thing, right? If it gets destroyed, discard. I think, yeah, there is a world where you can Rusty's Fox, pop your own Lucifers to make your opponent discard after you get damaged with Lucy, which I think is interesting. But then this kind of limits some other stuff that I was also considering as options. But it is in color, and the other thing that I like about these cards is that they play off of Iga. That's another big, huge thing about the Darkness Suite, is that it plays off of Iga. Which similarly is why the next bit of supplementary stuff I have is white. Do this. I think these are also going that. So yeah, the next bit of supplementary I have is white. I think Solaria's Light is another interesting point that makes me think Hyde has potential, is that you can run 4 of this, and then you also can run 4 Light Curtain because of how much of the deck is white, right? So Light Curtain's always live, so when you see it, because the entire deck right now is white cards, and then so even breaking on multiple Solaria's Light turns Light Curtain into a form of interaction. And I think being able to RFG cards against decks that don't want their grave RFG is like really important. Once your stuff goes to grave, you don't care in this deck. And you run things at so many multiples that risking hitting off the top isn't awful. So I think that there's a world where this was like my initial consideration, that this made me want to consider Hyde, is something like this. But this is already 12 of the non-engine slots. So there's 8 slots left if we do this. Then we have Spirits, Tinkerbell. I don't think you need Spirits. It hits Crimson Moon, mostly. Liberation of Light. Liberation of Light could be in consideration. I don't hate that. That lets you play like a little more risky. I think there's potential where you RFG something for... Ooh. I'm trying to think about where this space would go. Let me see. So the resonators we have that would hit board is another question, which isn't a lot. There's Rusty's, but Rusty's you kind of have to cheat in. But we have Rusty's Fox, Glowing Spider, and then potentially Lumia, which I do think that we always run Lumia. So there's 4 slots here, or 12 total that could be hit off of Liberation of Light. I don't hate that. It might be worth fishing them out. I was just wondering if I have enough resonators to justify it, but I don't hate it. There's Worlds too. If I'm running Spirits, Spirits would mostly be for Crimson Moon, I think. Although I think Light Curtain solves the Crimson Moon problem. Yeah, you can chase the Enter Spirit and Lib Light to pop Spirit and something else. But I think that this deck probably doesn't need more spot removal, if I'm being honest. I think the only reason Light Curtain is good is because Light Curtain is free. I think that's the biggest thing about Light Curtain, right? Because you have Lumia, which is spot removal. You have Rusty's, which represents spot removal. The whole Rusty suite. You have double kunai throw, and I'm running triple spy mission right now, which is a little greedy, but I think this is so much removal that you might not actually need Lib Light. I think the points for Light Curtain as well is that Light Curtain doesn't trigger Wolf, I think is the other big thing. But like this, I think that's actually like one of the biggest things, right? Is that this doesn't trigger Light Curtain and this gets around Crimson Moon. Or doesn't trigger Wolf and it gets around Crimson Moon. Because it makes them lose the abilities. So the Wolf won't trigger, so you don't risk running it. And yeah. Yeah, there's the what's it called? I'm running for the new worlds in this. I'm running, I can show you real quick. Honestly, from the light suite, there might not be a lot that we need. Also, thank you, OP Pride, for the subscription. I just got the notification. I appreciate it. 4-2. This is the Hyde suite that I decided on. Is 4-2, 3 spy mission, which I think is greedy, but I want to try it. Double kunai throw, 1 Rusty's, 4 Fox, 4 glowing spider. I think if there was contract still in the meta, that you can argue Rusty Ningus becomes a 4 of. But this is so reliant on being able to play with your ninjas, which you only run 9 of right now, which almost made me consider double Rusty, big Rusty. Because you want to see this early. I think the only reason that and that's like the thing, right? Is I was thinking about Rusty's loop, but it's such a big combo to have to set up that's my concern, right? Because you kind of want to see Rusty Ningus early, which is the argument for 4 of it, because you kind of want to hit it off Black Cat. Like, ideal is you hit it off a Black Cat with Iga in hand. And then you play the Iga, play Rusty, and then it gets the reduced cost because it will be the only thing in your EX area, right? Like, you hit this off a Black Cat, play Iga, make white, play Rusty, and then on chase it'll get the cost reduction. But that's so much setup that it's kind of scary because past the early turns it's not going to feel as good. And then it's such a will sync when Hyde herself is also already a will sync, that it becomes expensive is kind of like my concern. Especially because like Rusty's expensive. Actually, since you're here, for the ruling for Rusty Ningus, you can put face down ninjutsus or ninjas into field, right? With the middle effects. Since you know what they are, since your EX zone is knowledge to you. Or do they have to be face up? The ones that you cycle out. Because I was pretty sure you can cycle your face down ones. Can you check? Okay. No worries. But yeah, right now it's a 20 card Hyde package, which I think feels pretty solid, especially with no pink spider to help you cycle it. So that's when we get into the non-engine, which I think is pretty important. I would consider siding Solarius Light. It might be a side deck option, honestly, rather than a main deck option, because I think there's still a fair amount of deck. With the white you can cheat the face down. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Thank you. I feel like there might be a fair amount of decks that honestly don't care about their stuff getting RFG'd. But it's the high impact matchups like aggro, or like Grim Alice that do care. But I don't know if it's worth it enough to main deck. Or like Kaguya, like the, what was it, K3, the Moonlit Savior one. She would also care about having a grave. Mostly for wolves, right? So I don't know. This one's in consideration. But between Solarius Light, Iga, and Rusty Ningus, part of me wants to consider Feathsing, but I didn't pull any Feathsings out because I think that that's a little too inconsistent or too niche. Spirits, again, we might not need Spirits, because Spirits mostly contest Crimson Moon, but so does Light Curtain. Tinkerbell is for consideration because with Rusty's Fox, that's a board wipe, which I don't think is awful. Girl Staring At, again, Light Curtain might just serve the same purpose. I think Exorcist Mage is in an interesting spot, but you have to play around it yourself, is one of the concerns. But I think it's good enough it could catch people off guard in main. That there is enough decks that want to cheat out, right? Like the stop solarization. No, it doesn't stop solarization, right? It's only if they wouldn't be played from hand. But this does hit things like Wolf. But only Wolf when it tries to come back from grave. It doesn't stop the early on, which is kind of the problem. It doesn't stop like the initial hitting the board. Parry, I think, is a side deck option. But I don't know if it's necessary, honestly, with the way the format's been developing. Exorcist Mage hits the Electra train off of Priscia. I don't think you need this. Dang, I think Exorcist Mage is consideration for side. We have 8 slots left, though, for main. So to look into some of the other colors that I pulled out, we get into green. I also mess with Cheshire Cats. Yeah, that's true. I think it does hit. Honestly, like, you probably play around this better than the decks that you want it for. Right? Because you don't have to play Rusty from EX Zone. In worst cases, you can pop it after it gets the value. Like, you can pop your own Exorcist Mage. It does hit your own Ningus as well. It hits your own Ningus, Rusty. You can't Wings of Light off of Lumia. But worst case is you can pop it off of Kunai Throw. Or Rusty's Fox. Which isn't awful. I think you can. I think Lumia has to hit opponents. No, you can also Lumia your own. Like, you probably don't want to. You just want your opponent to deal with it. But it is like an option. So I think it's worth considering. They'll leave with 4 slots left. Though I do have this green package next to consider, which you have Replicant Kaguya's, there's Sacred Burials, and then standard green cancel, Fair Spell, Persephgarian Lorite, any of this, which is in consideration now. I think Garion deals with Wolf by not letting it hit field, so it shouldn't get the proc, right, to reveal the top. And then they've already paid into it, so it buys you a turn. Yeah, and if you're playing Persephone, you can't run Lucifer, and that was like the disconnect too that I was trying to figure out. Part of the reason I like green is Replicant Kaguya, I think, is really good, because again it cancels Wolf automatics, which I think is huge. Sacred Burial, it becomes a 1-drop off of what's it called? A 1-drop off of Iga, while also being a potential disruption and ramp, which I think is huge. Like, I think if you run 4 of this and hit it off of Black Cat with Iga in hand, you're actually feeling like really good, right? The only problem is early on, if you don't have a Resonator Engrave, then you're not. It doesn't do anything, and that's like kind of the trade-off there. But I don't hate it. Kaguya also lets you play a little bit more risky. You can kind of play into your Solarius Light and Light Curtain real easy because you can put everything back with Kaguya, since everything in the deck is white. So it shares an attribute. And 3 Solaria's Light is enough. The only reason I argue 4 is because you always want to... You have to see it, right? Since you're not running Solaria herself, I just worry that you have to see the addition, right, for it to get its use. Otherwise, past the first turn, or past literally opening the game, right, it's only Light Curtain fodder. But I think that's also an argument for why it could be at 3. So I don't hate... Yeah, I'm fine either way. And then ditch Lucifer, you have to run Electra. I think that you might have to run Electra anyways. And this is why I was considering the what's his name? Stein Solaris stuff. Because Drain 2000 isn't enough. And there's no way to cycle back the Lucifers, right? Since we're not like Asuka. So I think you always have to run Electra anyways, and you have to make sure Electra resolves is the other thing. Like, I don't think there's another out for for Darktree in the deck. Which is a separate issue. So you can have Dallas stack itself for burial if we need resonator slots. That's true. I just don't know if there's... I don't know if you get enough value off of Dallas in this deck to run, what's it called? To run Dallas, right? Like, you don't want things engraved necessarily. You have to run Whistling Summoning. Let me read what Whistling Summoning is again. Oh, yeah, it recycles Whistle Summoning. Okay. It recycles the resonators. Which I don't think that's worth it, is it? Like recycling the resonators rather than... Yeah, and then you can flip it back down and keep cycling. It could be worth consideration. The problem is now this is 40 without these, and then Whistling Summon. I could run Whistling Summon at a 1-of because there's nobody's gonna run any way to interact with EX Zone. So I can just never cast Whistle Summoning. I would just have to get to the point where I see it. As like the 41st card or something like that. Right, so nobody's gonna run like the Mumu try. Even when High was at her best, nobody's really running like... It's not even the Mumu try. What's the one that shoots something from EX Zone? Like, that's not... If I got... Yeah, if a Darktree player hit me with that, then they earned it. I think the problem is my grind game better than Darktree's to have to feed for the Whistle Summoning in Lucifers? And Ningus, right? It's a 3-card combo at least. And if anything happens, do they have ways to get rid of my Lucifers? Because if anything happens to that, then I for sure lose as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. It might be worth it though. It might be worth running one Whistle Summoning, 1 Electra with 4. But then this is 40 right here. 41. 42 with Electra. 41 if I drop down to 3 Solaria's Light. I might not want the Exorcist Mage. I really do want to consider Sacred Burial as an option. Because I do think that the Electra, or not the Electra, that the Iga line with Sacred Burial is really good. But it might not, honestly, it might not just be good enough. Since you need to hit off with Black Cap or put it in. It might just be another Will Sync that's too expensive. Kaguya, on the other hand, how do I feel about Kaguya in slot? It's another Light Curtain hit, right? So let's say if I did something like Exorcist Mage was to the side. I think one of the things with Kaguya is she's expensive, right? She's a 4 cost. And then say we did something like this. This gives me a point of interruption or interaction right here with Kaguya, as well as being able to play risky and cycle these a little bit better, or the cards that get hit off of this a little bit better. So I don't hate it because it lets me play more risky with my light cards. And I can cycle back something off of Kaguya every turn, right? I'm just thinking, yeah, and if I'm Solaria's lighting every turn, I'm guaranteed to hit a white card, because the only thing that isn't white in this deck right now is the Lucifers, and then potentially Electra, which I think is a separate concern, is hitting Electra off of Solaria's light, but I don't think I can do anything about that, right? Like, Electra's only for one matchup anyways, and in that matchup, I probably side out Solaria's light, or I mulligan Solaria's light back always against Darktree, because it doesn't do as much against Darktree as it does against other matchups. Light Curtain, Tink, Spirit, Station enables Kaguya seems decently frequent. Yeah. I don't hate it. I'm not running Tink right now because I don't think I need board wipes. Although it does hit additions. Which is something separate entirely. But I think Resonators are usually more the problem. And I think Light Current probably solves that on its own rather than 2-card comboing. I don't know. Alright, see you, Jeremy. Nice having you here. Have a good one. And thank you for stopping by. I think I want Tinks. I just don't know where the room would be. Ugh, this deck is so tight. Alright, we'll just put it here for now. Put it here for now. It is in consideration. Last thing is the blue suite of stuff as well. Which I think is an interesting spot, but maybe not as good. I think Replicant Alice is fun, but I think Rep Alice is a little expensive to call it viable. But I think Rep Alice is interesting. Interesting cycle piece for grind game. You run 9 Resonators in the Hyde suite already. The problem is having to hit them, right? That's generally the problem with Alice, is you have to hit something. It's Cyberjar, but Cyberjar isn't always good. Aspiring Diva kind of plays into the Sacred Burial lines. And it's better if you're running like a blue backup suite. Blue out of color. I think the new problem that we get into is that if I'm running Kaguya, it makes me want to run Garion as well. And I don't think there's enough room for that. I think blue package doesn't need to exist. I think Muse staring at is in consideration. I think falling into the cracks is an interesting spot right now as well, where it's not really good, but it's not bad. It's just kind of decent. Logi's Insight, I think, is just okay. It's mostly for control, but I don't think control is your main concern. And setting to the stage, again, is in a similar spot. I don't think control is your main concern. So that would just kind of leave these, and I don't think this is enough to validate running blue outside of a blue deck. So play Witch and something else that your Grim focused hate, yeah. Like, I don't think you need Falling. I think Muse is okay, but I think there's stuff that's in color that does similar right now. Right? So I think that goes into the bin. So here's where we start thinning a little bit more. I think from the stuff that got put to the side earlier, which I think you're right. You don't need like Folly and stuff like that. I think Sacred Burial gets put into the bin. I think Persephone, I'd rather run Lucifer's in the Persephone slot. Because Persephone doesn't problem solve. Persephone problem delays. Which I think problem delaying is something that this deck does fine enough already on its own. I don't think you need more problem delaying. Now Garion is a problem solver. Same with Lorite, same with Fair Spell. And if I'm dipping into green already, I think it's worth consideration on finding room for. Though, to your point on the witches, so we do have the Exorcist Mage. I do think Athena's Essence is a good side deck option. And I do have a witch package as well that I pulled and kept in the maybe slot, which I think 2 black witch is enough. If I was going to main deck this with 3rd black witch for training and then 3 options for sideboard. The problem again is that we get into space. You get into spacing issues. I think Parry is in a decent spot because of things like Chivalrous Tears, but it doesn't stop Electra. So it's probably not worth it. I don't think it's worth the side deck slot. It's probably just other things that you do for that side deck slot. But it also stops Lumia's Rage, which I think is another point in a deck like against a deck like Sebin in Darktree, right? Like this is another. It's a way to help stop the Lumia's Rage, which I think is important. However, if we find room for something like Lorite, Lorite also stops that. You can't drain out of the way of it because of also Essence of Athena, I guess, helps. But you can't drain your way out of it because of Darktree, right? I think Girl Staring At, I don't think that's necessary. I think it's a little slow being a 2 cost, but Iga does make it a 1 cost if you hit it off a Black Cat. So I think Girl Staring At is interesting. Just because of that, right? So these cards that are normally slow, like slow 2 costs, now become like 1 cost instead. Through Iga, which I think is important, an important note. But I think Girl Staring At is one of the weaker ones to reduce. So I'd say I can probably put the Girl Staring At into the bin as well. I just don't think it does enough. It stops Electra as well, but I think, again, at this point, I'd rather stop Electra with something like the Lorite. That's a 1-drop. Rather than Girl Staring At. So, Spirits of the Crimson Moon, I think, again, I don't think we need it. I think there's enough things that circumvent the removal. Are things like additions. So we're here right now. Let me see if I can find, where is my Hyde stuff? Let's see if I can find the rest of this Hyde. Sweet. Alright. Well, funnily enough, I do not have a Whistling Summoning in this stuff. I guess I never thought it was good enough to pull one to the side. I do have another Rusty. However, I never presumed Whistle Summoning to be good enough to put one into the binder, at least. I do have one. It's just not anywhere accessible. So I might just have to buy one at locals. There's consideration for a second Rusty, but I still don't think it's necessary. Because of how much setup second Rusty takes. But I am gonna hold on to it just in case. Now here's where we have to start biting down a little bit more. These are more side deck options as well. So here, again, right? Like if I'm playing these, it makes me want to play Garion as well. Because Garion slots in so nicely into that green slot. And it's so good. Like stopping wolves from hitting board, things like that. I think that's even more valuable than something like Fair Spell. Like I think I could get away with no Fair Spell and having Garion. So I'm gonna put Fair Spell away as well. Oops, I'm so sorry, yo. I hit my mic, or I hit at least the cover. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. The problem is that that's already 20 right here. And that's before Electra. That's before Whistle Summoning. So that's before 2 of the other things that are in consideration. I don't mind 41. But I don't think any more than that is good. I'd rather keep it to 40, honestly. Am I okay with Kaguya being my only form of interaction? With that being my only green card in this. Not only form of interaction, but only green card specifically. I think Kaguya does enough on her own. Because it cancels any spell. I think, honestly, Kaguya does enough on her own that she is worth... that she can kind of supplement the entire green package on her own. Right? Like, the entire control aspect. It does still run into things like Killua. Fossil Girl, which kind of hurts. And that's one of the arguments, right, for Fair Spell now. Is... what's it called? Being able to protect your Kaguya. But I don't think because you're not a control deck inherently, you might not need to protect the Kaguya as much as you just want Kaguya to protect your stuff and potentially bait out other interactions. So that way you can continue to play your game. Right? So now we're here. And I think I can get away with no spirits. I'm going to be so real. I think I can get away with no spirits. Because now I'm just running into so much stuff that's eating out of my hand. Tinkerbell is another story. Because Tinkerbell is a board wipe. And while I don't think I need a board wipe is still really good. It's not something to be underestimated. It's just what would I get rid of for board wipe. Now there is a world. I don't like that world. But walk with me. There is a world where you just run 2 Lucifers in main with 2 Tinkerbells in that slot. So that way you have access to Tinkerbell. And it becomes more light cards for Light Curtain as well. And then this is still enough to loop off of yo, Duolingo's reminding me to study. It's okay. I'm watching the time, baby. This becomes enough to loop off of Whistling Summoning, right? In the grind game. It's not as fast. And in that case, you probably side the 2 second Lucifers. But between 2 Lucifers in main, as well as Electra, you probably have enough for a game 1, where you're not completely out of the water. Just right away. And then we can try this as a Whistling Summoning. And then my Electra's in my other deck right now. So let me find that real quick. Is it in this one? Right. No, it's not. Okay, let me see. I thought it was in my Tina brand, but it is not. It is not in Tina brand. Where is my Electra? There we go. Okay, it's in the extra just cards I have lying about. Alright. So, yeah. I think my thing to pick up tomorrow is a Whistle Summoning. And we can try that. So, You think I have enough control power, you can just play for the game 1 because Dark Tree's so slow? Yeah. I would agree. I think that there is a world where you just play for the game 1. And I think if you resolve a Kaguya, a rep Kaguya, you're probably also feeling really good in that game 1. If you just have one on board. Because of so many like automatics that they have. And you have, I mean, also you do have things like the spy mission for the Alsaris. But let me double check how it's worded. What's this card? So it reveals for cost. And because I will say that is one of the things, right? It does reveal for cost, and because we're running spy mission at 3, you can just, when they activate the Allosaurus to put back on top, you just spy mission in response, and then make them discard it, which I think is pretty good. Like I do think that going faster than Dark Tree is a very valid strategy to outing Dark Tree. I know that it fuels their RFG, right? But they only have so much will each turn to play with, and they only have so many cards in deck. That I think that playing faster than Dark Tree is a very valid, like, run them out of resources that they can play or search for or work with. I think that's a very valid strategy for dealing with Dark Tree. Because ultimately they have to see things like the Allosaurus to recycle their deck, right? Like if they don't see it, which now they can cycle it back a little bit easier with Solarization, but if they don't see it, they can't cycle it. So if you can keep removing the resources and the options that they want to draw, I think that's actually a very valid strategy for dealing with Dark Tree. But I do think that having Lucifers and Electra to supplement that isn't awful. I don't think that's awful. Having double Lucifer also protects you from Solaria's Light RFG, but again, I think you just always cycle back the Solaria's Light against them, because I don't think it's doing anything, or it's not doing as much as you want it to do against them. So we're looking at, for Lumia, let's just double check this non-engine. For Light Curtain, we'll try double Tink instead of for Lucifer and see how we feel. I do like that it draws as well. I think 4 Kage as our 1 bit of interaction is probably fine. And then we're at 3 Solaria's Light, 2 Lucifer, and 1 Electra, and this puts us at 40. And then 1 Whistle Summoning, which I can pick up tomorrow. I think that will put us to 41, which again is not my favorite. I would much rather run closer to 40. Which I can drop a spy mission. To be fair, I don't need 3 spy mission. I can run 2 spy mission and still be pretty comfortable. It was just for the early on hand knowledge more than anything to run triple. Since it's another card that you kind of want to see early rather than late. But maybe there is a world where I drop this to 2 and then run a Whistle Summoning instead. I think I'll figure that one out tomorrow. I think every deck plays a 1 of Electra having out. Yeah. I think so too. I think Electra is one of the more prominent non-engines, which feels... I mean, it's whatever. I think there's always going to be staples in a game, right? So, it's just a matter of how good they are. I think Priscia into this is a little toxic. I will say I think Priscia into Electra is a little toxic. But outside of that, I think it's a fine card. I think it's expensive. It does have to be late game generally, right? Like there's not really a way to just cheat it in early outside of Priscia. But I think I'm pretty content with this main deck. Which is at 40, potentially 41. Grossly and I've been an absolute MVP in almost all matchups. I think Ghost Serenad's worth considering, but I don't know how I feel about it entirely yet. I think in this deck, again, it's probably a little better because you get Iga, and you can Iga it. But it's still... It's expensive. It's expensive in a format where aggro can be so good that main decking it hurts. It hurts me. I do want to see real quick what an opening hand looks like with this. Never End Tell a Fairy Tale. Yep, that is another one that is really good for being able to cheat out like the Electra, right? It's like it's the cheat outs for Electra that I think are worse than Electra herself existing. It's more so the cards that cheat her out. Which I don't know what you can do about that, right? Like combo ban, Tell a Fairy Tale and Electra, or Never End Electra, and then Electra and Persea. I think the moment you start getting 2 combo bans, you got to consider just the hard ban. Though I don't necessarily think that's, again, I don't think that's the problem. I think it's more so the stuff that cheats it out rather than Electra being unfair. So get our opening 5. If I assume we're just against, honestly, anything. This hand feels really, really bad already. You just definitely get rid of Double Tink. Kaguya early on, I think, is a death sentence, but you do have Solarius Light. So I don't hate it. It depends on the matchup, sure. But let's assume we're against, I don't know. Assume we're against like a little red deck. I get rid of Tinks. Kaguya's too slow against little red. So I drop 3. This feels better. I think you'll start the game with Solaria's Light. I think this actually is a lot better, right? This is really good against into the little red matchup. Or any wolf deck. Because you represent Solaria's Light and Rusty's Fox, that's exactly what you want to see against a wolf matchup. So I would have liked an Iga in this hand, but I will say that. If you're on coin and they try to wolf right away, you always Solaria's Light, RFG the top 1. Should kunai, though it's fine. You X Black Cat got art, which will get you 5. Which is against Rusty's Fox is pretty good. So let's say you put the Rusty's Fox into zone. Yeah. And on the wolf, you reveal this. And you pop the wolf. You hit it for 3. If they played the wolf so it's buffed, you play Rusty's. Draw 1. That's pretty good. Put the next Rusty's back and then hit it for another 3. So it's it for 6. And then no RFG off of Solarius Light instead of going to grave. So you're feeling like really good here. Especially with Iga now, right? Because now you can play Iga. You can play the second Rusty's if you want. I don't think you do. But I just want to mess with it. And then end of turn, this will go. Then you draw. You used your first will already, right? Or you used coin. But draw 2 feels good. Still here. You hope for light curtain. I think it's interesting. That's an interesting setup. I think Tree needs to be hit in some capacity if Electra goes. That could always be a problem just because of the way the ruler works. Yeah, I think that Tree is a little toxic with the new stuff that came out as well. But I don't think it's necessarily the best. I think the problem is that Tree is oppressive against the decks that like aren't, no, what's the word, right? Like I think Tree is oppressive to the decks that aren't the best deck in the format, right? Which is, it's weird to say, right? It's like Tree is oppressive to the decks that aren't better than it. Like yes. But I think that the aggro decks and stuff kind of exist above Tree. And clear Tree pretty well. But then like all the other decks that aren't what's it called? That aren't those aggro decks, Tree feels really oppressive against because it forces them to play into one play style. Like aggro already plays into that play style. But other decks now have to as well because Tree will be really oppressive to them otherwise. So I think that's kind of what it becomes. which is interesting place. Again, let's see if we're going against Grim Alice here. One Solarius Light's fine. Probably get rid of the Kaguya. I think you can keep this for Never End, potentially, so that way you don't have to worry about getting one later. You are running 4, but this saves you from having to find a Lumia later. So I think you probably don't need Spy Mission either. Again, they want to discard. They want to discard stuff, and you don't have Ega, so you get rid of Spy Mission. Right? There's no Lumia. I should have just got rid of Lumia. So you start with this, right, which feels good. If you're going second, blah blah blah. It's just X Black Cat Goddard. We have Tink, Glowing Spider, Electra, Ningus, and another Glowing Spider. I think here the problem with getting Ningus is you don't have any ninjas in rotation right now. Like, this feels like a really bad reveal, which is concerning with the deck, but I think you acknowledge, right, that the deck is RNG anyways. That's like one of the problems. Like, everything's RNG, but this feels especially RNG based sometimes. I don't know. Like, you don't get Ningus here. Ningus would feel good if you had Ega, but you also need other cards. And that's what I mean. It's like, Ningus needs so much setup that it kind of hurts. So, you probably just get Glowing Spider. You have Will still. Draw. You can put something in. I don't know. It's an interesting spot to be in. You're playing more with your non-engine there than with your Hyde's cards then at that point, right? You're playing with hella non-engine, which it's half and half. So you're kind of expecting a lot of non-engine as well. But and this doesn't even get into stone bases yet. But I think stone's probably the easiest part, or the easier part of this. Say it's Grim Alice again. You can get rid of like literally all of this. You don't need any of these cards against Grim Alice. Double Light Curtain Electra, Spy Mission. Yeah, you don't need that. Rusty's I think is fine to keep, because that cycles your engine. Would the deck be comfortable enough siding Rumsfeld and just setting up EX Zone before? It's a good consideration, honestly. I think what would be the things you run Rumsfeld for? It'd be Kaguya, K3, she wouldn't get the draw. No, she would. She would, because it's a single ruler. You can run it for Solaria. You can run it for Darktree, but that only stops Sebin. You can run it for any Grim tag, which will probably be Grim Alice. It's probably the most impactful one, because they can't get the discard or the triggers off of Judgment. I think there's a world where you can run it. Let me do a few more mulligans real quick just to see what hands look like. And then we'll go into side deck real quick. An Ega would make this hand so good. Oh my god. Like one Ega where next draw. Yeah, this hand would be like really good, right? Because if you put the one will to sink this into EX Zone, or honestly, okay. So realistically, what happens? I don't think shotgunning X Black Cat is necessary. If you're going first, you can put this into EX Zone at end of turn. Draw for turn. You see Ega. You play Ega. You pay one. You're tapped out. This is before recovery. You play the Rusties. You'll draw, and you put the Ningus into board. You go to recovery. You'll get your second stone. And now, here's where you get to start gaming. Because you play one, you play the rusties. Like, this feels so much better. You play this for one. So you still have 2 stones up. This goes at end of turn. And you have 2 stones. You might not need them, but if you're lucky... Or now you can probably X God's Art, right? Iga, Kunai Throw, My Glove, Rusty, Kunai Throw, and Light Curtain. Like, that's really good now. Right? Because you put the Rusties. You've seen both Kunai Throws, which kind of sucks. Because you're not going to see one later now. But you have 2 stones up here. With the Rusties and an Iga. Available. Right? So if they attempt to do something to this Uningus, sack the Rusty for... Sack the little Rusty for big Rusty. And then you get a pop and a steal, which I think is really good. And these aren't once per turn, so you can do it again. So this is where it starts to feel really good. But again, this is like a 3-4 card combo. That's that's why it starts to feel good. Is because you used 3 or 4 cards to make it happen. So that's the argument for no Rusty. Let me do one more real quick, and then we'll get into stones and side deck and finish up. I do want to consider Rumsfeld. I think Rumsfeld is worth consideration, especially because you can, again, X Black Cat, Iga it, which always, any card that you can do that with, I think feels good. Let's say we're against a little red, or against a K3. K3, I'm probably putting back Kaguya, and then I can keep everything else, I think, in this. Yeah, that, again, that's like so good. It's just 4 cards, though. But this specifically is like really good, right? If we're going first, you get to start with Solaria's Light. They have coin, which sucks, but they can't play Reckless. So you can set the Rusty's Fox with your 1 will. Depending on what they put out, you can Solaria's Light, RFG the Light Curtain, that's fine. You flip, shoot for 3. Play the Iga. And this is another thing why I was considering Feathsing, right? Is you have 2 additions on board. So Feathsing feels like decent. Like a pay 2 extra, it's not nothing. Even pay 1 extra isn't nothing. So Feathsing might be in consideration. It's just again, a multi-card combo. Yeah, I guess it introduces an all zones quick cast. Play this, you'll draw. I think the problem here now is that you can't get the Rusty Ningus out as easy. You put Ningus on board, but you've already tapped out. Which is fine. Maybe. This will go. At end of turn, you'll draw. You go to recovery, get your second stone. There's a world. We're on second stone. Walk with me. You play Iga. You hardcast Iga for second stone. But this taps you out, right? So this is like a really greedy play. So I don't think you ever do this. Second stone, you probably just draw 2 off a glowing spider. Because you have the light curtain. You'll keep 1 stone up. And then if you want, you can do that. Like, I'm not mad at a set kunai throw with last stone. Is this only during your turn? No, it's not. Which gives you another point of interaction. Or you can play second glowing spider and draw 2 more, which I also don't hate. Because again, but then this puts all of your resources into the light curtain. So I think I'd rather just place a kunai throw. with Last Will. Okay. I think that this main deck is fine. I'll try to pick up a Whistleless Summoning tomorrow at locals. And play this at locals. Real quick, I think Stone's kind of easy. I am a believer that if you can run 4 colors, especially with Kaguya, or run every color, right? You can also filter these early on, so you're not paying life. I think Darkness is the one we run the least of in this deck. So I think that I don't even own a 4th one of these, I don't think. But I think running the green to supplement Kaguya right here is probably for the best. I pulled out Spirit Stone because I was expecting green might be the way to go. And I don't hate being able to filter into... being able to sack for a draw. I don't hate it. Do I like it enough to run 2? Probably not. And I think the other problem here is how do we pay for Electra? Right, because it's a 3 cost, that 3 red that we can't filter into. I don't hate 1 Amadeus Stone, or Amadeus Crystal, because it already represents white, and most of our deck is white. And honestly, you might be able to get away with 2 of it. The problem is that you no longer filter into green for Kaguya. So there's the potential of 2 turns that you can never play Kaguya if you're up against a single ruler. Because you can't filter into green. Which, how detrimental is that is a different story. But I think in the matchups that you probably care about filtering into green, it's 2 rulers, right? Like K3, you don't want to... You're probably not filtering into Kaguya anyways. That I think against like Sieben though or something like that, this is probably fine. I think the matchups that you care about... But then we have to consider if we side into Rumsfeld, right? If we side into Rumsfeld, we can no longer filter, which is something different. The reason I'm not worried about EX Zone with Rumsfeld is that there is other ways to get stuff in, even if it's not as reliable. We have the Cat Moon. These were for if we did blue, but we're not doing blue, so it's not as good. It's not good at all, right? It doesn't do anything. Not as good. Problem is if we do side Rumsfeld, right? And again, I think the matchups where you care to filter into green, you don't. You're gonna have Amadeus Crystal live. So I think it's a bit of a power play. A bit of a bold call, but I don't hate to. Especially because it already represents a color that you need. That most of the deck is, like, if we're being real. The 1 Spirit Stone is a little more bold. But I do think 1 draw can be the difference between a game sometimes. That I don't hate it. Especially because you can filter into your other 2 colors. And you don't need that many filters in this deck. Generally, like, if this is your 1 filter, these represent every other color. And you can just filter this one when you need it. You don't need a lot of black in this deck. I don't think. Yeah, you don't need a lot of black. So I think that this will be the stone base I run with. 4-3-2-1. If I find that Spirit Crystal is too greedy, I'll trade it out for maybe a 3rd Amadeus Crystal. But 2nd Spirit Crystal. I don't hate this. Imagine using YouTube and not Twitch. Cringe. Wow. Wow. I didn't want to set up a whole Twitch account for this. You don't say that to Jeremy. Whoa, wait, hold on. Let's talk about it. You don't say that to Jeremy. That's crazy. You know what? I was gonna go live on Twitch after this too. On my other account. On my real account. I was thinking about doing some Genshin gaming. Yo, 100% say that to Jeremy. You better go say that in chat right now. Call Jeremy cringe right now. Thank you for the sub, by the way. Appreciate it. Look, we're close to the end. We're getting to side deck now. I'll run the whole deck profile over. again once we're done. But I think that this is stone base. Check chat. I'm gonna check chat right now. If I don't see. Okay, wait, here it comes. Here it comes. You gonna call Jeremy cringe. And that's it. Oh, okay. You know what? There you go. Equal opportunity. Equal opportunity is what mattered in that moment. Well, what's up? Oh, shoot. I forgot to even try to make room for Black Witch. Oh, well. Okay, let's do side deck real quick. I think side deck kind of pieces itself together a little bit easier. I don't hate siding into Black Witch either, if I need to. These are some of my tech options I have for side deck. Explosion of Magog I think is good against Lumia, as well as it hits Wolfstone. I don't hate it. This hits every Grim Ruler hard. The Mat, because they can't Judgment now. Or they can Judgment, but it costs 2 more. And every deck cares about being able to Judgment cheap and early. Like, this hits every Grim Ruler. Horn I think is interesting because it hits, what's it called? Like the aggro decks a little bit, but again, you have to already have dealt with the thing. There's a Shiva. There should be a Rogue Spectator here. Killua. There's Outer Space. Outer Space I think is in the same spot as Mott. That hits Grim Rulers. It's Mott, World of Mott, World of Duels and Ascendants. It's Mythic. It's a 1-drop Void, which is something else that I like about this. It enters, draws a card, and then players pay 2 more to what's it called? Both players pay 2 more for Judgment, but you're not Judgmenting, right? And then prevent all damage that would be dealt to J Resonators with Tails are villains by ones without that. Which can come up for Lucifer, but otherwise it's like whatever. But it's mostly for the fact that it makes them pay 2 more for Judgment, right? That's like the big thing, is you'd want to see this early. This, of course, gets rid of Swiftness, so this deals with Wolves, as well as taxing Judgment, but only by 1 instead. And it's also a 1-drop. So this deals with Wolves by getting rid of Swiftness. But it's another delayer. But sometimes all you need is a delayer. I don't think you need to run these. I don't think you need to run Shiva in this deck. Although it is a blocker for aggro. So I kind of don't hate Shiva just as protection. I think Witch only targets Grim Society 2 to 3 is better than any main. The only thing is that Witch also gets you to Witch Train for Pumpkin Witch. So it does further your own game plan as well a little bit. This is sideboard right now. That's the only thing I don't mind about Witch in main, is that it does help your end game. So I think running 1 Shiva isn't awful. I think if you run Explosion of Magog, you can run like 2 or 3 and be fine. But yeah, this is side right now. I'm not mad at 2 or 3 Explosions of Magog. Damascus Moon hits you. Yeah, Exponential Wolf, Fairy Tail Cheese. I don't like Death Scythe against Little Red. I don't think Death Scythe's that good against Little Red. I think that's kind of like a trick, honestly, because I feel like Little Red, you stop the Death Scythe, but then they just still play with the Wolves, right? Like, I don't think the deck needs to, or it loses instead of to Death Scythe. Like, I definitely killed through Death Scythe before with testing with the deck. Just trying to see what it could do. So I don't know. That's like one of the things I'm not really convinced about with Death Scythe. Definitely keep the 1 Shiva inside, whether you solarize or not. Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I think the fact that it has Eternal is what's kind of most appealing about it. Because it's an Eternal blocker that gets bigger. If we did witch, the witch side takes up about 4 slots. Just from targets. If I don't witch train with a second witch, it takes up 3. Which then I need to find room for 2 main deck witch. Right? I might not need to side the second Lucifers. For, this is kind of what we're debating on now. Is slots for these. I might not need to run Lucifers for, what's it called? For Dark Tree. I don't hate Explosion of Magog, especially for Wolf matchups. Wolf Stones and Lumia and Control, right? Like, you can't hit Pure Heartstone, but you can hit the things Pure Heartstone is copying or fetching, which I think is really big. As well as you hit Wolfstone. And some decks are only running 3 Wolfstone rather than 4. So you can honestly take all of their Wolfstones out the game and keep stalling. Which they don't have a way to cycle those back either. So I really don't hate Explosion of Magog, especially because we're already running green. And it's something you can get off of Black Cat. You can get these off of Black Cat. I think if you're going first into aggro, you side all 5 of these and Black Cat immediately to try to rip one if you don't already have one, so that way you can play it. And them being void is also huge. So I think I am gonna run like all 5 of these. Shiva, I do think I run Shiva. Do I make room for Black Witch Train? If I make room for Black Witch Train plus Shiva, that's 5. I'd have to make room for 2 in main. And then, what am I doing? Am I doing Exorcist Mage? I have to play around Exorcist Mage. That's the only problem with Exorcist Mage, is I also have to play around it. So it's like, does it hurt me more than it hurts my opponent? And in what matchups? Like in Grim, it probably hurts them more than me. Because they can't Cheshire. And they can, just to get RFG'd. And they can't tell a fairy tale. But then I can't run like the explosion, right? Unless what I do, again, the witch isn't guaranteed. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Yeah, it just removes my ability to use the EX area, so it's not awful. I can still play. And it only stops resonators. It won't stop anything else. I can run 3, run 2, take out a witch, and run 3 explosion. I don't necessarily need this, but I do like Essence of Athenia for the same reasons, for like the Grim matchups and stuff like that. So maybe I just don't run Witch Train. Maybe I don't, because the deck's already tight enough that I can just not run Witch at all. Just no Witch package and just run other things that hit them instead. Which is where we would get to, we run 4 Exorcist Mage, triple Explosion, and double Essence, and that's 15. Now, this is just all theory. It's very generic, right? It's not necessarily specific enough to use for anything. This is just kind of like an idea. Exorcist Mage, I think, hits Solaria pretty decent as well, without hitting you. And then this is for aggro. The Explosion Magog, I think, was also for aggro. Explosion the Magog plus Rusty's Fox also helps kind of fix the Crimson Moon. Or not Crimson Moon. The ability to kill Wolf. Or kill Wolf or Red. And then this also can solve addition problems as well. Which I don't hate. So yeah, I do think that Essence of Athenia is better. I think Exorcist Mage also is really good for Cthulhu's. It doesn't stop the Incarnation, because Incarnation is still paying it from hand. It's just an alternative cost. But it does stop the mother-father loops, as well as token generation off of Cthulhu's, which I think is huge. So So I do really like Exorcist Mage. And then yeah, Athena, Essence of Athena, also RFGs, their resources. So I think that these help solve like the random Cthulhu matchup, as well. It does also, yeah, you're right. It does hit the Beatrice because it's a cost to remove. I think, or it might not hit Beatrice actually. No, it's not a cost for this one to remove. So it doesn't hit Beatrice Castle. It hits, I guess, the castle, just not everything else, which might be enough. I do think Wolf hitting Wolf, Solaria, and Tree is good, especially, and Grim. Grim is kind of niche, but it does hit Grim. So I'm not mad at this. I kind of like this. I kind of like this for an idea for a draft side deck. Now I will say, one problem that I am noticing with this side deck, which I'll fix it right now. Let me see. Where are we at? What are we looking for? One problem that I did notice with the side deck. Let's see, do I have the facilities to rectify that problem that I'm seeing? Let's see. There we go. Yeah, alright. Whew. Almost got caught lacking with the non-foil. Can't have that. Can never have that. That is fixed. That is fixed. I will say a lot of the things that I like about this deck, I do like about Tina Brand as well. But I don't feel like playing Tina Brand right now. I do hate that Brandheart got hit. I don't think Brandheart needed to get hit. Especially with what they just released right after. Anyways, yeah, I did get the foil. I'm sorry, y'all can't see that as well. Should have kept the common. Non-foil. But I'm not mad at this for a side deck. Yu-Gi-Oh player mental. Yo. How could you tell? Do I even have any Yu-Gi-Oh cards right here? How could you tell? I don't got no Yu-Gi-Oh cards right here. How could you tell? I just finished putting together my Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Y'all should send me Yu-Gi-Oh funds. Yu-Gi-Oh player mental, baby. I can't do high rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh though. High rarity in Yu-Gi-Oh is out of my bracket range. This was other stuff I was considering. Mostly this for side deck, but I don't think you need it. Again, I think you have enough spot removal in this deck that we can just kind of put this to the side. And I do think you want your EX zones off of Black Cat and the Black Cat God Art to just hit your Black Cat God Art. The biggest thing is it helps you see your other side deck cards sooner, right? Which I think is even better than spot removal, especially when these can all be played off of Iga. That I think, yeah, it's just you always just keep Black Cat in. So, okay, let me shove these in here. So I'm gonna give y'all the final list in just a second. Gotta sort through it. Black Cat is too good for this deck. I do hate the getting hit. What's it called? I do hate the, not even inadvertent. It was very, very, very intentional hit by losing the Moonchild. I think I said it before, but I do think that it hitting all of the, it hits all of the H2 rulers a lot harder than it needs to, because they're kind of locked into running their one child, and don't have a lot of flex spots outside of that. Is one of my problems with that CR change. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll work with what we've got. Okay. Let's get this all in order. Why don't we? So, and again, I do need to, if I remember, there's a very real world where I do forget to do this. I need to pick up a card for the deck tomorrow at locals. Okay. So, to give y'all, I'll do this again. I'll take it to locals and I'll tell y'all how, what's it called? I'll tell y'all how it goes. It'd be allowed 16 side deck slots for Devotee. You know what? I didn't make a side deck slot for what's it called? For my World Honored one. Oh man, I'm kind of lacking. Hold on. You're right. Let's take this out. Which card? I need a whistle summoning. I didn't pull one into my stuff. So it's back home rather than here. So alright, it's none of these. Jordan, no. Jordan, yes. Wait, hold on. I gotta find it. I got my foil one somewhere for my side decks. See, I think it's probably still in Tina Brand. Let's see. Where is it at? Wait, where is it? No. No. Where is it? Where's my foil World Honored one? Yo. I want y'all to know, at the GP, unironically, I am playing with the 14 card side deck. No shame. That's not those. I will handicap myself because I need to make a statement. I need the statement piece. Is it here? Yo. Where is it? God himself is trying to keep me from making this decision. Oh no, here we go. Wow. Alright. You don't need 4 Exorcist Mage. Why would you want consistency? You don't need to see it that bad. When you can run this. There we go. We'll just run triple Exorcist Mage. If the 4th one comes up, I'll kill myself. That's the solution. Alright. Now that problem has been rectified, here we go. So I'll do this again after locals. Again, as long as I make it to locals. I'm kind of lazy. I don't know if I feel like going to locals tomorrow, but I probably will. I probably will. So, but either way, real quick deck profile with what we're running right now. We're running the Hyde and Black Cat because I think you need it. And then for wheeling it into the engine pieces, the Hyde suite. If only I had that 4th Exorcist Mage. Yeah, you're right. So 4 Rusty's Fox, running 4 Iga. I guess I should have done that first. I think these ratios are pretty standard. 4 of the Glowing Spider. I'm running 3 Spy Mission. This is greedy. I think this is greedy, but I think the information that you get early on for what's in hand, I think is pretty valuable. Depending on the matchup. In most matchups, I think that this information is pretty valuable. So I'm trying out 3. As well as it's a card that puts itself into EX area. Double Rusty Ningus. I think this card is a combo piece, so running it at 4 is hard to justify because it doesn't do anything on its own. Kunai Throw, I think, is a delayer. I think it's kind of a worse version of Rusty's Fox. It delays aggro, but it doesn't advance your game state. So I'm only running 2. And then 1 Rusty himself. Similar, he's kind of a little sneaky. He kind of takes combo and setup, so I don't want to run more than just 1. Then going into like non-engine, we have 4 Replicant Kaguya, which is my 1 bit of cancel interaction. We're running 4 Lumia for aggro, as well as to get rid of things like Neverend. Then we run 4 of the Light Curtain, because basically the whole deck is light. This helps with aggro. It lets you play a little bit more risky and less perfect because you can use your hand as well, which I think is important. Main deck, triple Solaria's light. Again, kind of for aggro because other decks need Grave. Running double Tinkerbell to supplement the Rusty's Fox. Then 2 Lucifer, 1 Electra, which is for Darktree mainly. And then 41st card should be a Whistling Summoning. That should be 41st card. Although, again, I am still debating making 3rd Spy Mission Whistle Summoning to keep it down to 40. But that is at least the main deck right now. with where it stands after 2 hours of cooking. This deck's mostly light. Thought it was all red cards. No, don't let the Electra fool you. She is mostly white. Love me a good white woman. Stones for Moonshade. It helps with Kaguya, and then if you can run Perfect Will, why not? 3 Wanderer Moon because you can't filter into green with this deck, so you want to see green. Double Amadeus Crystal. This does risk you 2 turns that you can't play green. But because most of your deck is white, you don't care, and you can filter into black when you need it. And then Spirit Stone, same, because you can filter into the other 2 colors that you need fairly well. That if this is just your 1 stone that you have to filter, you're pretty okay with that. And in the matchups where you would want the green, again for Amadeus Crystal, you're pretty okay with it. Those are usually 2 rulers, so this will represent 5 colors. Similar for the matchups where you want Electra. This kind of would represent 5 colors. Dark Trees, 2 rulers. Control matchups are 2 rulers generally, and those are the ones where you want green / red. So that's 10 stones, 40 card main, and then getting into side, pretty quick, just kind of a rough idea. Triple Explosion of Magog, double Essence of Athenia. We have triple Outer Space and double Mott for aggro. We have 3 Exorcist Mage and 1 Replicant Shiva, as well as the calling card as the 15th, I Alone in the World Honored one. If you want, make this a 4th Exorcist Mage, and then you're pretty set. Or a Rogue Spectator also would be pretty valid. You might struggle against Typhon, so I wouldn't be mad at running that. But yeah, that is pretty quick, but that is the deck profile for right now after 2 hours of live building. Again, if I remember to, if I go to locals, I'll give a report on how it runs Sunday or whenever I make a video on it. Who knows? I don't make videos a lot. So, need to figure out if you can keep it Luma Sherry. You're going to switch to like Sherry Abdul. Listen, I love Loom Sherry. I thought about building Loom Sherry. The only problem that I have, which I said at the start of stream, the only problem I have with control decks is that they feel like aggro is so good right now that it's hard to play control. But I think that the deck is really fun. I just think you have to play so perfect with control right now that it's difficult. Like, it's not very forgiving to play control. That's what I'll say. It's not as forgiving as it has been. But white woman to link off opponent's Ray? Facts! Facts! Spawn and play blue and pitch Ray to cancel the answer of your white woman. What in the multiverse? But yeah, I think that's like my main problem with control right now. Otherwise, I like it. I think Lumia Sherry has a lot of neat stuff. Like, I think one of my favorite interactions is Dallas into the Distrust King and draw 2 cards. Draw 2 cards, RFG 2 cards, because then it fuels Replicant Kaguya, and you can draw for conflicts. And that's kind of like one of my favorite interactions that the deck has, is that. As well as you can also run Moon Lights, I think it is, since you're running Sherry, so you can just make your first stone a Pure Heart Stone, and now your Moonlights also are all colors for the rest of the game. So you can save yourself from paying too much life. So I think it has interesting concepts that it can do like that. I just wish aggros are so strong right now that it just hurts to not, if you don't play perfect. So that's I don't know. Lumia's Rage, excavation to kill opponent. Yeah, that is cool. That's cool. I do like that. Like, I think that there's some really, really neat stuff that you can do with that deck, and I wanted to build it, and maybe for my next build I'll build that. Because like I said, I don't think I'm going to take this to a GP. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have enough confidence in this to do it for that. But once I get my invite, I'll look into playing more like fun or niche decks for GPs. But for now, I would like to play my hardest for an invite, preferably paid. That's the big one. Is I'd like the paid invite. But I do think that this deck is solid in an interesting spot. Like I would play this at maybe like the GP after. The GP after the one that I get my invite at. Which I'm hoping is the first one. So that way I can have more fun with the format and explore the format a bit more. Look, alright, if you're not needing an invite, just throw your game to me when you see me. Like go ahead and just give me the game, help boost me. Boost me to first, so that way I can get my paid invite back home. Cause I need that. That's what I care about. But yeah, I definitely want top 32 because I mean Tina Brand is definitely like my main deck now, I would argue. And I would like to be able to get that max rarity, which now is with GP Ubers. Need to keep dream crushing? No, because I swear to God, I'm sick of seeing you in tournaments. When I'm sick of seeing you in tournaments when you're playing meta and I'm playing like fun. Like I don't need dream crushers when I'm playing a fun deck and then I'm running into meta. Don't do this to me. Don't do that. I love to go. I think it's around the same thing in Arizona. I'd rather go there and see my friends than go to... No, that's valid. That's valid. I get that. Like, for me, it's like, I want my invite. I just don't know if I'll be able to go if it's not paid, right? Like, it's an expensive flight. And so that's the biggest thing is, like, I want my invite and I want to be able to go. And if I get my invite, I'm going to do everything in my power to go. Of course. But it's like, if I can't, then... I don't know. So I'm going to make it work. I mostly want to go because I also want to see my friends and stuff. That it's going to have been a year or so since I've left Japan by then. So, I don't know. Nah, don't say that. We're going to help you cook. We're going to help you cook up. Always on meta at events. See, I never play meta at events. What? Zeus player who? Don't even mention it. I play meta, I think, in Force more than I do in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm playing Rogue all day. Because I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Not that you can afford to play Rogue, but I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has enough events available that you can afford to play Rogue or fun decks at events. Force does not have enough events for me to sit and play a fun deck. Force has, 5 events for me to get my invite to Japan paid for. I can't sit here and have fun in that. It's cutthroat. I just need to make sure that I get my invite like right away if I want to have fun. There's not enough events for me to be like, oh, I'll get it in the next one. Like, help me get a deck ready for mini. That'd be amazing. I can cook up a Lumia Sherry again. Let me see if I have the deck saved. I also want to get my other mat. I don't think y'all were here when I said that, but I want to get the other mat and I want to try with the other material. Because I think I'm gonna like that one better. And then I want to sell them. I think I might get the other mat with the Alice Gil Lapis design on it. So I can order the second design and see what the other design looks like printed on the other material. I do not have my other thing. Olympian tree. Look, I have Olympia. My friend told me to play Solaria. The thing I don't like about Solaria, and this is the thing, when I was debating what deck to build. Also, yo, I need to do my Duolingo soon, so I'm gonna need to leave. But the thing that I was saying, my friend told me to try Solaria. The only thing I don't like about Solaria is that you're super limited on colors. Like I guess Solaria has been topping local events and stuff, but I think Solaria is so limited on colors that it hurts. Like it forces you into one play style that ends up being like pretty linear. I think a lot of the thinking and stuff comes from deck building rather than playing. But once you have the deck, I think it's super linear because you only have 4 Omni stones, right? Everything else is single color. And I think that puts you at such a disadvantage. Because the only things that get colors is your gears. When they're in RFG from Solaria. So it's like, it's super limiting, I think, in what you can do, right? Like if you can only run green cards, realistically, or only run black, that's where I start to have concerns. I think the deck's good. I just think that the limitation on will is what hurts the most. But you do get things like the Solaria addition suite, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I'd probably run green black Solaria though if I built it. I think green black is probably the most solid one. So I can try to help you with that. I didn't want to build it on stream, but I could just build it, have an idea for fun build for you as well. I'm not really worried about that. So yeah, let me do a little thingy. Let me go look at this. I was gonna stream on my other Twitch because I wanted to play Genshin, but now I might just play Genshin on my own. Super good, but you need to see the RFG all to combo, and the other cards are kind of ass, so the opponent drops. Yeah, that's like my problem, right? It's like, I don't know, you just lose so hard to certain things, right? Ugh, I don't know. Whatever. It's like, it's rough. So, alright. Well, I'm gonna get ready to head out. I want some food. Low key. I'm gonna go do my Duolingo streak, keep that up. And I don't know, I guess I gotta make this into a video or something at some point. I gotta trim up the parts where I did the actual building, and then I can throw that up as a video. I do have an IU Olympian deck profile that I recorded that I should upload too. It's like 10 minutes or whatever. It's very quick. I took it to locals. Does well. Gotta prevent the bird from running in my sleep. That's what I'm saying, bro. That bird is out to get me. That bird is out for my blood, and I got 20 minutes. But y'all take care. Y'all do well. Thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate the subs and just hanging out and talking. If I make it to locals tomorrow, who knows what I feel like doing, because I just got a ticket today, which kind of makes me not want to go to locals because that ticket is expensive. But if I make it to locals, I'll probably play this deck. So that way I can give y'all a report on how it does. Look, I had Kaguya built. Goodbye, Kaguya. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go to locals now because I just got an expensive ticket. But we'll see. I might still go. No. It's not speeding. It was a parking ticket. Because I parked at the school. Because I needed to be at the school for stuff. And then they gave me a ticket for parking at the school because it was in like employee parking. So I low-key, I disputed it. And we're gonna see if they accept my dispute or my appeal. But worst case is I had to pay the ticket anyways, right? Best case is they accept my appeal and recognize it as an honest mistake. Like, please, bro. Please, bro. Honest mistake. Leave me alone. But alright, y'all. I'm gonna get ready to go do my night. And here is Hyde, all packaged and ready. Thank y'all for sliding, for coming through. And I will see y'all around. Stay smooth. I'm gonna see y'all. No Genshin stream on my other channel tonight. I'm just gonna chill. Alright, peace. Yeah.